This is a story about basic underwater demolition SEAL training and deals with two problems that happened during Hell Week. The title of this story, 2 Nights in Hell Week. The first 3 weeks of training are geared toward preparing each trainee for the rigors of Hell Week and the real training that is to follow. Then comes Hell Week and 6 to 7 days of punishment devised to weed out those trainees who did not possess the true desire and determination to continue with the even more demanding training that is to follow. Whoever conjured up the name Hell Week could not have conceived a name more befitting this demanding period of training. There will always be 2 nights in Hell Week that stand out above all others. For Class 28, Hell Week would start at 1 minute after midnight on Sunday and continue until midnight the following Saturday or sometime on Sunday. As planned, we were introduced to Hell Week by screaming instructors who entered our training barracks exploding M80s, cherry bombs, and overturning bunks. As trainees spilled out onto the floor, the instructor orders everyone outside. Then as we walked through the door of our barracks, we were met by another group of instructors who welcomed us with the hard blast of water from a high-pressure fire hose. It was complete pandemonium as trainees were knocked off of their feet, skidding across the ground into other trainees and knocking them to the ground. All the while, instructors were screaming and ordering us to move to a common area between our 2 training barracks. Each time we tried to regain our feet, we would once again be knocked to the ground by the high-pressure water from the fire hoses. By crawling, we finally reached the common area where we were then ordered to do various calisthenics. All the while, the instructors continued to blast us with water. This continued until the instructors were satisfied that we were ready to move to the next problem. At this point, we were ordered back into our barracks to immediately dress and once again regroup out front. Instructors then ordered us into the bay where we were to dog paddle and sing training-related songs for the next 40 minutes. Then, because we didn't move fast enough when ordered out of the bay, we spent the next half hour doing push-ups and more calisthenics. We were less than 2 hours into Hell Week, and already several trainees said they had seen enough and walked away. We formed up into 2 lines and ran from the amphibious bays to the ocean, south of the team compound, on the Silver Strand. There, we were ordered to form a single line along the beach and to get on our knees. On command, we were to call from the beach into the water, stay for whatever period of time the instructors felt was appropriate, and then crawl back to the beach. The instructors would coordinate our movements through various blasts from a whistle. Upon hearing one blast from the whistle, we would start crawling into the water and continue until waves were breaking over our heads or until we had reached a point the instructors were satisfied with. Then, 2 blasts from the whistle meant we were to stop and remain where we were. Each time we did that seemed an eternity. 3 blasts meant we were to return to the beach. We would repeat this problem over and over, and all the while, trainees who could take no more left the program. Hard to believe, but even this early into Hell Week, many trainees were quitting. Having completed this activity, we were once again ordered to form a straight line along the beach at the high water line. An instructor then walked back and forth along this line of trainees, explaining that we resembled a chain and that each man was a link in that chain. He then signaled out the most senior trainee, an officer, and ordered him to lay on his back in the sand with his cap covering his face. The instructor then told the class that this man, even though he is an officer, is no more important a link than any other link in this chain. The instructor then ordered a seaman apprentice, the Class 28 junior trainee, to cover the officer with sand. He was given a boat paddle to complete this task and reluctantly shoveled sand on the officer, taking great care not to put sand on his face. Annoyed at this, the instructor then grabbed the paddle from the seaman and, with considerable anger and emotion, covered the face of the officer trained under at least 2 feet of sand. The instructor then ordered the class to attention and marched us down the beach, away from the buried officer. This was intended to show us that in BUD/S, all men are treated as equals. Each link is important as the next, and this chain, Class 28, can only be as strong as each individual link. Under most circumstances in the Navy, rank has its privileges, but not here, not in BUD/S. It had been quite a learning experience, and the officer who had been buried was uncovered when we were far enough down the beach to be out of sight of his unveiling. This simple maneuver impacted each trainee differently. However, some were more profoundly affected than others. The enlisted man standing in front of me quit the program after seeing this, having commented, "If the instructors would do that to our senior officer, then what do they have in store for me?" The second incident happened the fifth night of Hell Week. The strain of Hell Week had taken its toll, and by now, nearly half of those who started had dropped out. We were all exhausted due to lack of sleep, constantly being wet and cold, and because of the tremendous physical and mental pressure continually forced on each of us by the instructors. Men were starting to hallucinate, some worse than others, but probably each trainee was affected in some way because of this sleep deprivation. Due to attrition, our boat crew had been reduced to 5 men, and this only after picking up the one remaining member of a boat crew that saw 6 men quit the program. We were about an hour into the exercise when it happened. 4 of us were paddling, and Mike Paul, our boat crew officer, was aft steering. From out of nowhere, Mike screamed something incoherent words, jumped up, and dove into the water of the bay. Now, no one in his right mind would have voluntarily jumped into the bay. This hadn't been the act of a rational man. I looked at Larry Miller, another member of our boat crew, and we both laughed and then pulled Mike back into the boat. When asked what had happened, Mike simply replied, "I saw a freight train coming straight at us and had to get out of its way." This was day 5. Hell Week would continue for another 24 to 48 hours, and during this period, other similar stories would unfold. Hallucinations caused by sleep deprivation became a common occurrence for those men who endured the rigors of Hell Week. But for all those men who stayed the course, the feeling of accomplishment, having survived this nearly impossible milestone, is one we shall always cherish. However, this was by no means the end of training. It was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this story and would like to purchase a copy of my book, go to www.udt-seal-stories.com and I will send you a signed copy. If you prefer the Kindle version, go to amazon.com, books, and type in Nick Nicholson.